Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for your flexibility. We were originally scheduled for a hybrid meeting where we would be in person and virtual, but we had some conflicts with some commissioners. In order to make it easier for them and to get a quorum, we had to schedule virtual. So thanks for your flexibility. The time is now 6:03. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. It's April the 8th. And start out by doing commissioner introductions of the commissioners that are in attendance. And I'll go from my left to right, starting with Commissioner Gosselin.
I am Peter Gosselin. I'm a commissioner for District 6, which is largely the west side of Connecticut. Welcome.
And I'm Lisa Gore. I'm the commissioner for ANC 34G01 and also chair of the commission. Thank you all for coming. Commissioner Ferguson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zach Ferguson. I'm the commissioner for Single Member District 07. I'm also the ANC's treasurer.
And Commissioner Sherman.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Bruce Sherman, commissioner for District 2, and I'm also the commission's secretary.
All right. And as the other commissioners jump on, I will make sure we introduce them so that you guys know who is available. So we do have a quorum of 4. We have to have 4 commissioners in order to make a quorum, and we do have that. So we'll move forward. In terms of meeting procedures and any changes to the agenda with meeting procedures, community will have an opportunity to comment on issues that we're addressing at the ANC meeting. We will ask if it's, an issue where we're weighing in with community members, we'll let you know. If you do have a comment, use the raise your hand feature. That's at the bottom middle portion of your screen under reactions. If you click that button, you'll see a raise hand sign at the very bottom. That way we can recognize you to speak. I ask that we just keep our meetings respectful and listen to neighbors as we go through the process. In terms of adopting the agenda, commissioners, were there any modifications to the agenda? I know Commissioner Gosselin, you had one.
Yeah, Commissioner Nash asked that we add time for the Transportation Committee to report, and I think Michaela Flatzer will be doing that report.
Okay. So Michaela, we will add that under our committee reports. Is there any other modifications to the agenda? Okay, commissioners, I move that we adopt the agenda as modified. Is there a second?
I second.
All those raise your hand. Okay. 4-0. Thanks a little lag on Commissioner Ferguson. That is approved. Okay. Consent agenda. Commissioner Sherman, did you have any minutes to add for the consent agenda?
Yeah, the minutes that I sent around for the March 27th admin meeting, or March 25th rather admin meeting, or March 20th whatever date it was. I sent those. Yeah, I sent those around to everybody. The only minutes that are outstanding are the minutes from the meeting that we just didn't record, which I'm working on now to recall all those details. All the other minutes are done, and all the meetings are posted at the YouTube site. So, okay. Yeah. So what what
we got to do is before they're posted, we got to approve them by the ANC. We have to vote on them.
Yeah, so, no, I understand. That's why I sent around the minutes, the most recent ones yesterday or the day before, to everybody. So everybody, yeah, you guys should have gotten those yesterday.
What Bruce is saying is posted, I think, is the video, which is what we do right away.
Yeah, right. The video is posted, but
we're talking 2 different things.
No, I understand, and I'm clarifying that posting the videos is done. Posting the minutes requires approval. I agree. So I sent around the latest set of minutes to everybody yesterday. I even went ahead and signed them proactively, but awaiting further review from the commission. So okay. If you haven't seen those yet, then obviously we can't approve them tonight, but they're done.
Okay. So for the consent agenda for May, let's add all the minutes that haven't been approved, to include those admin minutes as well.
Right.
Okay. All righty, thank you. This portion of the agenda is our community forum where we give community members about 15 minutes to discuss issues that are not on the agenda. I know we have Lieutenant Olivier from MPD who wants to speak. Alan, I see your hand. I'm going to go with Lieutenant Olivier, who's on the clock, to make sure he gets his comments in and we don't hold him up. And then I'll come to other community members. Lieutenant Olivier?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hope everyone's doing fine. I'm going to go over the month of March and where we stand as a PSA in whole. For the month of March, we were down at least 2 crimes comparing from 2023 month of March as well, the previous year. Our biggest issue right now is still theft from autos. We have brought down the amount of retail thefts by having a unit in that business beat area. So for the entire month of March, we only had two incidents of theft from the retail stores, which is a good thing, and we made arrests as well. So that's a good thing. However, the bad part about this is even though we're down in crimes, we have theft from autos. So I'm going to let you know that it seems as the weather is getting warm, airbags seem to be the thing again. So far, for the month of March, we've had 2 of them, and we're keeping our eyes on that right now because we don't want this to get out of control again like it did in previous years. And of course, the smash and grab from the cars, from the vehicles. We had one in the entire month of March where an individual smashed the window of a car and stole change or pocket change or something that sorts out of the console. Other than that, we are looking really good with the crimes. Again, we're out there, we're putting out the flyers. We're trying to connect with the community to make them aware of stuff. We had our walk on March 26th. We had a community walk on March 26th pass, and it was pretty good. A couple of residents showed up, and we had some good conversations with them and to see where all the problems is. And we're still having the package stuff from my understanding, but I haven't seen the reports. That was the biggest, one of the biggest complaints again was the package thefts. I don't know if they were talking about the past November, December holiday season, but I haven't seen any reports of that.
Okay.
Do anyone have any questions for me?
Yeah, I do. Lieutenant, thank you as always for being with us.
Mm-hmm.
The first car break-ins in my single member district since the 12th of January happened last week. One was on Utah Avenue in the 6200 block. One was on 31st Place in the 3100 block. Those are just right next to each other. I'm not pressing the panic button as I've told my constituents on this, but I did tell them that I would raise these with you. One of them asked if MPD 2nd District could increase patrols. I indicated that we, fortunately, since the rash of car break-ins last fall, as you've reported, have seen a sharp reduction, and that we hadn't seen any to speak of, as I said, since January 12th.
Okay.
But I am conveying my constituents' concern. And of course, we don't want to see a renewed spate of these break-ins. So I'm just letting you know, on behalf of my folks, that's what happened, and I appreciate your attention to this. The other thing I want to raise with you and commend you again for a report you and a colleague made to the ANC about a month ago about traffic surveillance, traffic monitoring, traffic enforcement. You wrote 16 tickets, we heard, at the corner of Tennyson and Oregon in my district, an area where motorists habitually run the stop signs. So folks have asked if you could come back and have a continued presence in the neighborhood for traffic enforcement. They would really appreciate it.
Both the concerns, we will have somebody doing traffic still. As a matter of fact, I spoke with McAwee yesterday, and he said he was heading up to that area you just mentioned. When it comes to braking and stuff, we're taking notes on this, and we're going to try to put something in place to help.
Okay.
You know, we're limited on staffing, so we're doing our best with everything right now.
Yeah, both of those, by the way, were reported. They were in the daily reports. Neighbors alerted me ahead of time, but I saw them in the daily reports. So they have filed the reports as we've encouraged them to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's good. I believe 2 weeks ago we had a hit and run. What was that? We had a hit and run up there from Military Road, and we apprehended 2 of the individuals. However, we had to do a warrant for them because nobody could place them in the vehicle at the time. So the warrant is still pending. We're still doing work. Hopefully, you know, we could get this warrant back and hold them accountable. About 2 nights ago, I believe Saturday or Sunday night, they recovered a handgun off of Military Road. It wasn't 201, off of Military Road. They're still investigating that. Father and his daughter found that handgun, I believe, in the AR. We don't know if they're connected, but I'm working on that to see if they're connected right now. Because Military Road was one of the flight paths that the 2 suspects had taken.
Yeah.
Okay. But other than that, the PSA is looking not the best, not the way I want it to look, but it's looking better than recently passed.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And Lieutenant Olivier, just to say a shout out to your officers that responded on Wendell on, was that Saturday night? We were out there about 1 o'clock in the morning with a neighbor who left their pup out. Their car was also parked the wrong direction, light on in the vehicle, and a lot of personal items in the vehicle. And your officer Israel responded, as well as 2 other officers. They did a fantastic job. It was very early in the morning. So just thank them from residents on Wendell and Hawthorne for getting that dog back in the house. They had the owners I walked with them to the neighbor's house. We tracked down, the phone number. The owners were out of town, but there was an au pair that was living there, staying there. We don't know why she didn't answer, but they did get her to finally answer the door and put that poor pup back in the house.
Oh man, I'm happy.
We were too, because it was a very small dog. It was extremely cold, and the dog was frantic running around in the front yard. And they at least, put him in the backyard, but we wanted to get him in the house, and so they found. Yeah,
I was thinking about a Saturday night, how cold it was.
It was freezing.
Happy that
it was freezing.
And as long as we're trading animal stories, I'll note that there was MPD writ large. It wasn't Second District, and Animal Rescue a few weeks ago helped us retrieve a cat that had been lost for a week and was discovered in the vacant and blighted property at 2717 Tennyson Street. Oh. And we were fortunate that the neighbor knew the former contractor who had the combination to the lock on the gate, so we could get in with MPD's approval. We didn't jump the fence. We waited until MPD came. They authorized us to go in, and we went in, and they were very helpful. The officer was in retrieving the cat.
That's good, I like to hear like that, all the good and positive thing that the department's doing and the officers are doing in the PSA.
Absolutely.
But, every meeting doesn't have to be a negative thing, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
So I appreciate compliments, I'll pass the word along to the officers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and anyone else?
All right, look like we're good.
Okay,
Thank you.
guys, next meeting. Everybody be safe.
You too.
Thank
Thank you so much. Okay, so I think Alan was first, then we'll go to Joy and then Michaela.
I just hope that the commission will recognize the notice and decision by the Historic Preservation Office on the historic district application, which we learned about today. That they should recognize it formally in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Joy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Joy Bates Boyle. I live on Nevada Avenue, and I am delighted to let you know that this week a new exhibit is opening at the Cleveland Park Library. It's called Undesign the Red Line. It is not about the Metro. It's a travel history exhibit that tells how federal, state, and local governments created exclusionary housing policies, and then focuses on the residual effects of those policies on how communities developed. It opens April 11th. It runs through July 11th. And you can find more information about it at our website is undesigndc.org. I'll spell that UNDESIGN, undesigndc.org. I strongly encourage you to visit during regular library hours. You can take a tour on Wednesdays, Saturdays, or Sundays. You can schedule a private tour. We have an amazing calendar of programs. Our first program will be April 18th. There's a book talk about DC gentrification. Two of our programs are high school students. Two of our programs are put on by the National Association of Realtors. We'll explore Black Broad Branch and Reno community, the Macedonia Church on River Road, and other local stories for this national traveling exhibit. I encourage you to spread the word. And if you have any questions, you can email me. The email address is on the website. And again, that's undesigndc.org.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
Michaela?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. I thought it was a hybrid meeting, so I'm at Lafayette.
I
well.
I could tell that from the background.
Sorry.
Halfway coming home.
I'll be home before I can do the transportation committee meeting. But anyway, my name is Michaela Platzer. I live in Barnaby Woods, and Lisa Gore is my commissioner. And I'd like to bring two items to the attention of the ANC this evening, and I have a challenge for the ANC as well. The first issue is bus transit in our area. Last week, the mayor released her proposed budget, and if you've had a chance to review it, there's some good news in it for us, as it includes an additional $200 million in WMATA funding. This suggests the draconian service cuts being considered earlier this year are off the table, at least for now. However, in a letter from the mayor to Chairman Mendelson on the budget, there's a paragraph that raises a concern for me. On April 3rd, Mayor Bowser wrote, quote, "The district's economy remains vulnerable. Other risks to the forecast include potential WMATA service cuts. Despite funding included in the district's budget and financial plan, WMATA service cuts could occur if the amount proves insufficient or the other jurisdictions do not agree to provide the needed funding," unquote. As our bus routes are not used as heavily as others in the district, this always makes us vulnerable to cuts, especially the M4, the last remaining Metro bus that offers service in the Chevy Chase DC area after WMATA discontinued the E6 at the beginning of COVID without the required community input, and is yet to reinstate service, even though I was told by WMATA that the suspension of the E6 was to be temporary. Other Metro buses like the Crosstown E4 bus are not easily accessible to those of us who live in Barnaby Woods and Hawthorne, for example. So the last true community bus for Chevy Chase DC would be eliminated if WMATA imposes further service cuts. I'm respectfully requesting the council remain vigilant on any future Metro bus service cuts and it would oppose any more cuts to the very limited bus service offered to the residents of Chevy Chase, DC. We are already known as a transportation desert. Additional cuts will make it much worse. A second related item is WMATA's proposed Better Bus, also known as Visionary Network Initiative. As I understand it, WMATA is expected to release another version of their plan sometime this spring, perhaps this month even. I believe ANC 4G passed a resolution in June 2023 opposing WMATA's proposed changes to both the M4 and the E6 bus routes and demanded the E6 bus route be restored as part of the plan. My question is, where is the June 2023 resolution by ANC 4G on the Better Bus Initiative? I can't find it on the ANC's website under resolution letters and comments. Am I looking in the wrong place, or could one of the commissioners please email me a copy of the resolution? I think it's important to post the resolution because it detailed the community's concerns to WMATA's initial proposal to revamp Metro bus service across DC. As WMATA is expected to release a revised plan in coming weeks, I'm flagging this issue again. I don't expect WMATA's revised proposal to be significantly different than the first version, which the community opposed, and it could be even worse for us. We don't know yet. And finally, I have a challenge for the ANC. I don't know how many commissioners use the Metro bus system in our area, either regularly or from time to time. I challenge each of you to use it for a week so you can experience the benefits and drawbacks of bus service across Chevy Chase. There's no substitute, in my opinion, at least, for direct experience with the Metro bus system. Obviously, you can't use the bus on weekends except for the E4 and L2. I would encourage each of you to try it for a few days. See how far you have to walk to a bus stop, how long you have to wait for a bus, and whether bus service is even available to where you need or want to go. This would allow you to better understand how WMATA's Better Bus Network might affect our community. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Love it. Great. That resolution should be where you look, Michaela. I will, after the meeting, go on and make sure. I'll do a double check. If it's not, I'll post it and send you the link to it. I know there's another one that I got to check on.
Thank you.
And in terms of the bus service and everything you said, 100% agree. I have taken the bus and the metro. And I can tell you, I tried to avoid Tinleytown when they changed the route, you know, so I wouldn't be there when the kids got released, because that's too much for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree. Thank you. Commissioners or community members, you have any comments to Michaela? Okay. Thank you, Michaela. Yeah.
Just thank you, Michaela, for bringing all this to our attention. I think she's still there. Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay. I'm going to walk home now and I'll pop back on when I get back. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks. Mary Rouse.
Mary?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to react to a comment that Alan Sieber made. And for those who are interested in this issue about the historic district, the statement that HPO made this morning was unprecedented. They accepted our nomination and said it was complete. And so we're currently looking at all of our options here because there's something that's not quite right here. We just wanted to alert you that there will be more coming from us either today or tomorrow or in the coming days, because we have met all the requirements for submitting a nomination. And while, you know, boundaries and community consensus are certainly legitimate issues, these are not issues that have affected other communities getting historic district designation. Those things can be discussed and negotiated and worked out. So, and while we applaud the city for wanting to do data analysis and collection, mapping, equity analysis, and so forth, that's all well and good. but that should not interfere with consideration of a nomination that was filed before the city made the decision to begin such data collection and after it accepted the nomination saying it was complete and met the standards for consideration. So I just wanted to let others know that this is not the end of the historic district effort, and to stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Commissioner Gosselin.
Could I suggest for those who don't know what this exchange is about, I read the statement by.
Can we do that in the 6:45 section of the agenda, Peter? Okay.
Just in summary, the HPRB has put an indefinite hold on the historic the proposal for a historic district in Chevy Chase.
Yeah, yeah, and then we can definitely go into a little bit more detail below. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So we're pretty much right on time. Commissioner Gosselin, you have the next agenda item on the liquor license renewals for
these are both routine renewals of alcoholic beverage licenses. Unfortunately, I failed to get to Magruder's, so I have not talked to the owner. I did talk to Malkit Singh, the owner of Chevy Chase Wine and Spirits. He has had no complaints in the past year, and we typically ask two questions of people getting license renewals. One, have they had any complaints? And two, is there a request for any change in hours? It is neither with Chevy Chase Wine and Spirits. Magruder's is in the community for a very long time. I suspect it is not there either, but I can't say definitively. If you want to put this off and we can handle it in one of our two special meetings, that's fine, but I don't frankly see any reason to do so. The hearings for both, let's see, the deadline for filing a letter saying we support or otherwise for Magruder's is April 29th, so we would have to take it up. I frankly advise that we just simply approve it. I will go talk to the owner. The deadline for filing a letter for Chevy Chase Wine and Spirits is May 6th. So I move that we approve both. And why doesn't somebody would second that? We can discuss it, but I really think that these are.
I second.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do commissioners or others have any questions?
So Peter, is there any paperwork we should be looking at on this? I don't think I've actually sat in on an approval of a liquor license renewal.
No, you receive something like.
I did. Okay.
That's the sum total of the paperwork. And
okay.
Typically, Bruce, what we do is there are all these hours that are put down, and one wonders, like, I mean, and the hours of operation are often much more expansive than the hours. The hours they ask for permission to operate are usually much more expansive, or often much more expansive than the hours they actually operate. So every year we ask. The sort of tradition has been go to the owner and ask, are you changing your hours, and have you had any complaints in the intervening year? And the answer from Malkit Singh, the owner of Chevy Chase Wine and Spirits, is no change in hours, no complaints. As I say, Magruder's has operated exactly as it's operated for something like 150 years. I don't think that we're, but I leave it to the other commissioners. There's no other paperwork that I get. I presume that there is a case number, and I presume one can go online and find other stuff. But I think this is very perfunctory.
Yeah. Okay.
Institutions like this. Any other questions or comments? Can we go ahead and vote? So all in favor of my writing a letter saying we support these two alcoholic beverage license renewals, please raise your hand. I don't see that.
Yeah, he did. 4-0.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Then Commissioner Zeldin is not here. this is our possible discussion of DC Public School budget testimony. I still was not able to look at Commissioner Lynch's comments. I am going to defer to Commissioner Zeldin, who did look at the comments, who felt comfortable with his original testimony. I would ask that the commission go with the original testimony prepared by myself and Commissioner Zeldin. One of the things I saw that Commissioner Zeldin was concerned about is not knowing the budget details of, I think it was Deal and
Jackson Reed.
yeah.
Yeah, Jackson Reed.
And I don't feel, I mean, that was one of the things that we were kind of hesitant with Lafayette, is not having those final details. And with that, I mean, so I definitely agree with Commissioner Zeldin, without having those details, can't include it in testimony. So I would say, ask that the commission approve the original with the last round of edits that Commissioner Zeldin and I agreed upon.
So just to be clear, Lisa, the DCPS budget by school is published. So I've taken a close look at Lafayette's budget. I haven't delved into Jackson Reed's or Deal's. If we wanted to quickly consult the online information about the DCPS budgets, again, for those three schools, we could do so. I'd be happy to do it very quickly for Lafayette. I'd be happy to look at all three if we wanted to put it in. It wouldn't be a big delay. It would be tomorrow, just taking a look at it and dropping in anything that we felt would be relevant. I'm okay if you don't want to do it. I'm just offering it as a possibility.
Can I answer a question?
Let me answer this though. I think that is obviously one way we could do it. Traditionally, we have had some connection to the budget numbers in terms of discussing them, with the LSAT or the school. We haven't had that with the other schools. And I'm just hesitant to throw numbers in without having real context behind them. And we had some, different responses that we had got even on the Lafayette numbers, and would have been rectified, since those original cuts had been proposed. So, I mean, if we just want to throw in basic numbers for the sake of throwing them in, we could always do that. But I just think when we're doing testimony that we should have a lot more detail to kind of go behind it. So
Yeah.
I'm just always a little hesitant to do that.
Right. So the Lafayette numbers are, at least in my mind, clear. So I've sort of followed the back and forth on their initial budget, the budget as submitted, which reflected some give back by DCPS of $319,000 to Lafayette.
Mhm.
Lafayette's budget is 11.3 million. What needs to be spelled out is the fact that they have to absorb these 22% staffing cost increases. And that is what's going to put them in the hole with regard to their overall budget allocation from DCPS. But anyway, back to the main point here of whether we want to include those figures. No need to do it if you're happy with the testimony as it is. I was just offering that the information is up at the DCPS site, and you can easily find by school the breakdown.
Could I just ask you a question? So when we were having an email exchange about this testimony, and I asked whether I could see the breakdown by school, I think Peter Lynch sent me a link to something that showed submitted budgets. But my understanding reading the site was that that's not the DCPS decision on the Lafayette budget. That was what Lafayette was sending to DCPS, or is that the breakdown?
To clarify, Peter, what is up right now, and I sent a link around. Maybe Peter sent one too, but I sent a link around to the Lafayette budget over the weekend or on Friday, pointing to their specific allocation as now submitted by the mayor to the council, which reflects what Lafayette had been told initially they would get. Lafayette negotiated, they got $319,000 put back in, And so what got submitted of 11.3 million includes that additional 319K. So it's a done deal. What's up there now is the final budget. Pending council action, obviously.
Right, right.
The testimony, these cuts of a reading interventionist, a math interventionist, 2 English language arts instructional coaches, these were in the final budget.
Yes, those are correct as articulated by Dr. Brocard in her community Lafayette letter as to what the impacts were going to be specifically for the school.
I have to say, I think there's watching as somebody who's not point on this, watching the exchange of emails between the commissioners, I thought the criticism that was being made of this testimony wasn't strong enough, but it seems pretty strong to me. I mean, I don't see what it says right at the second paragraph says, you know, we want to be on record as saying we're in strong support of school budget restoration and growth citywide. So I don't see a problem here. It seems to me we might as well vote the testimony is written.
I agree. Zach, do you
I've got a friendly amendment. Just I think, you know, we've had so many drafts thrown around, but I think Zeldin's yesterday didn't include my friendly amendment, which is really just updating the merch language and the merch letter, attaching it and moving it in the document. So I would just ask that my edits be included. For people not aware, you know, we passed a resolution on merch last year, and at that time I was not a merch parent. I am now, full disclosure, a merch parent. But you know, our ANC merch is not in our ANC; it's to the south of us. But we have many ANC 3G families that have kids that go there. So it's obviously the focus is Lafayette. That's in our district. Many, you know, but we have a few sentences about merch's situation.
So I'll accept that, Zach, and update that testimony to reflect that. Okay. So with that, commissioners, I'm gonna put a motion on the floor to accept the DC Public School budget testimony as prepared and amended with accepting Commissioner Ferguson's update.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, 4-0. Thank you. So I'll get that around. So I told Commissioner Gosselin that I wasn't going to sign up for written, oral testimony, because I believe they are on 400 witnesses right now, and there's just no way. That's brutal. But I will definitely get this accepted or submitted for written. All right. Yeah, they have to have, we have to, you know, we're in the 21st century. We have to develop, I think, a system of notification for council testimony when you have that many witnesses, just to help, you know, witnesses know when their panels are coming up. Just even a text saying your panel is about 20-30 minutes away would be very helpful. So up next, is that you, Commissioner Gosselin?
Yeah,
Connecticut Avenue zoning.
Yeah, I just want to, really what counts here is we have to make some decisions about the kinds of meetings we have, particularly this one and the next one. With regard to the substance of the zoning proposals, I offer to start drafting some language and move it around to commissioners to talk about this. I just remind everybody that we have a meeting on Thursday, the exact format of which we'll discuss shortly, and we have a meeting the following Thursday. And then if we're going to get something in by the 29th, we really got to vote on it the following Thursday, the 17th, because we do not have a meeting a regular meeting on April 22nd. So I'm happy to start doing some drafting. I understand there's, you know, the commission is going a lot of different directions here. I actually think there's a compromise to be had on height that would command a majority of commissioners. So anyways, that's I mean, we have a meeting Thursday on this very issue, so we don't need to log it too much here.
Okay, I agree. Any comments on that, commissioners? Okay. Let's move on to Commissioner Sherman and the artificial turf safety recap.
Yeah, so I just wanted to review, and I've put out for the entire community to see my sort of summary of the meeting we had, the community meeting we had on March 26th. We had a host of national experts on safety issues related to artificial turf, as well as representatives of the artificial turf industry. The trade association is the Synthetic Turf Council, and there are a number of leading manufacturers, including Field Turf, which is the company that has been selected as the vendor for the field at Lafayette. And of course, our commission has passed 2 recent resolutions regarding the field at Lafayette, asking for more information, more community engagement, a host of other things, and for the city to honor its prior commitment to use natural grass at that field. But it was important to have field turf represented. We then had, as I said, 3 leading scientists who are experts on chemicals and artificial turf from Notre Dame, from Mount Sinai, and from an organization in Massachusetts that focuses on environmental issues. It was a good, rich conversation that went almost 2 hours. 150 people participated. The recording is up at our website. We've had about 105 views of that recording thus far, and there'll be, I think, a lot more. It's all there for everyone to see. What I want to highlight here, because tomorrow night we're going to have the second town hall. The first was given on safety issues related to artificial turf. And the one tomorrow night is going to be on looking at the relative merits of artificial turf versus natural grass, taking into account design, construction, maintenance, playability, and cost. And again, we have leading national experts that are coming from the turf industry, synthetic turf industry, from the natural grass industry, and other experts who will be helping us work through the issues related to both types of playing surfaces. So I'm very much looking forward to that. This is for the benefit of the community that, as we all know, is wrestling with the concerns people have about one type of field or another. I have said from the beginning that we really look at this. I look at this in terms of a community that wants to have access to readily playable fields. There's no question that there's a demand for fields. We want to have access to fields. And at the same time, everybody wants those fields to be safe, not only in terms of safe for athletes regarding injury and heat issues and that type of thing, but now the emerging science around chemicals, PFAS in particular, in turf and what that represents. This is an issue that's front and center in our communities. We all know right now, concerned to people around Lafayette, people in my single member district, and I look forward to the conversation tomorrow. I encourage everybody to join. I've posted fairly liberally the link to the meeting tomorrow. Again, I welcome everybody to participate.
Questions. Corinthia, you have a question?
I have a comment more so. I just would like for Bruce or Commissioner Zeldin to just acknowledge the response from the city in regards to the Lafayette update to the, I think they're going to update that playground track area. And, I'm asking for this because Bruce is pointing out these different talks about the turf and everything, but we're not acknowledging the city response. I notice a lot of times we talk about how the city isn't responsive, the city isn't doing this, they aren't doing that. But they did provide a response in regards to the update to Lafayette Field. And the listserv, I don't think should be an appropriate channel to communicate to constituents because a lot of people are not on the listserv. They're not, it's not an open environment for people. So I think if Mr. Commissioners Sherman or Zeldin could acknowledge that response from the city, that'd be great. I just want to make sure we're communicating all information to individuals and not cherry picking things that we share with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Strong?
No, that's fair. Of course, we all recognize, looking at the letter, that DGS and DCPS have not answered Councilmember Lewis George's specific requests either. So we are happy to post that, and yet it merits a bit of assessment in terms of what they didn't answer regarding what she had asked for, which are cost comparisons, detailed cost comparisons. Not to get into the weeds on this, Corinthia's point holds, happy to make that available. I want to be clear that the meeting tomorrow is, again, not on Lafayette per se or the Murray Fields at ECC. It's about turf. It's about artificial turf versus natural grass, to try to provide the community with access to fact-based information and diverse perspectives so they can make up their own views about these things. So we're not litigating either one of those projects. We're talking more broadly about the differences between the two types of playing surfaces.
And I just want to note on record, the letter did address costs. I mean, we're in a budget deficit in DC. So it addressed why they're updating Lafayette's field with turf for cost reasons. And I think for obvious reasons, we don't need the details. We know we don't have any money. So we're short, but just want to point that out. Thank you. Bye.
Mary Rouse?
Thank you, Lisa. I'd just like to make a comment. Corinthia just made some comments about the listserv, that it's not an open environment. At the same time, asking for people like Bruce not to post his newsletter. Did I understand that correctly?
No, you understood that incorrectly. I asked to make sure to post the letter to the community on other channels outside of the listserv, because the listserv is not the ANC official business. But we can talk offline about your handling of the listserv if you like.
That's okay, Corinthia. I just wanted to make sure that people understand the listserv welcomes ANC commissioners' newsletters and any comments ANC commissioners want to make, that the goal of the listserv is to share information and not to, you know, let one person's views dominate over another. So we're trying to do a balanced discussion forum here, and appreciate everybody's contribution to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Any other comments on this topic? Okay, moving on to the next one. Oh boy. So this is a good one. So discussion and possible vote on returning to all virtual ANC meetings, as well as starting at 7 p.m. So I know what the commissioners are going to say. I want to hear from community. But just to start the conversation off, as you could see tonight, we have 4 commissioners. It's really tough. I think it's getting tougher for a variety of reasons for commissioners to make in-person meetings. The tech setup is an enormous challenge for us. We are trying to hire, and Bruce has a applicant. So we did put out an announcement for tech support to help just basically set up our meetings. We have one person that applied, which is a high school student that, you know, could probably definitely do this job. But that has become a challenge for the commission. And some of the commissioners want to go to 7 p.m. We went to 6 o'clock because we could not get out of the Chevy Chase Community Center on time. And that, some of you guys know, really bothered me, because the folks that work at the community center, some of them have to be out at a certain time to make their transportation connections, and we were holding them up, and that's not good. So we had a hard time doing that, but that has caused hardships on commissioners that have other commitments like families, you know, activities that they're involved in. And being on this commission, you have to make time for yourself and your family. It definitely is not a part-time job unless you want it to be. Most of the commissioners in this commission have always put in 100% effort. So it takes a lot to do the role, and I understand that. But it's come to a head, I think, on the commission where commissioners want to discuss the option and change it. So with that, I'll open it up to commissioners and community members who might want to speak. I'm really curious to hear from community in terms of what you guys want. We have gone, and this, I will say this, community members, you can make any comments you want about your ANC commissioners. But part of the reason why we got to this place is because we were so whipped by community in terms of not being in person, not, the format of our meetings. So we switched over, and it's not working for us. So I would ask, and will always ask, that you have to work with the commission. I mean, the commissioners are just human beings like you are. And so I do want to, though, hear how it would impact community to go back to 7 o'clock, how it would impact community to just do virtual meetings. So those are something that's going to be open for discussion. But I do think we'll probably take a vote on it tonight, depending on what the commissioners say. So it's going to be important to hear from everybody. So with that, commissioners, do you guys want to comment now? You want to hear from community first? Goslin?
Yeah, look, I'm the one who's borne so far the bulk of the grunt work, setting up this equipment, and periodically being humiliated by it in front of the whole community. That notwithstanding, I think—
Can you talk up a little bit? It's hard to hear you.
That notwithstanding, I think that we ought to at least have regular meetings in person. I think that what is happening here is it's been a very long haul of work, and there is huge division in the community, and it discourages commissioners. But we weren't elected to be discouraged. We were elected to do the job, and I just don't think being remote, and we have, in a dozen different forums, we have trafficked, we've been coping with the fallout of a Zoom society. You see the deficiencies in education. I think you see it in a lot of political decision making, and I think that we should stick to at least our regular meetings being in person, in my opinion.
Any other commissioner before I go to community?
I'll just say for my part, I understand the move to 6 p.m. And why it adds more time. That's really helpful, but it is hard for, just simply eating dinner, even if you don't have other commitments. Most people try to eat dinner between 6 and 9 p.m. And, if you're joining on Zoom and you have it muted, maybe you can eat, but most people, if you're attending in person, you're probably not eating a meal in our audience. And it's, so I find that challenging. If you look at I saw Commissioner Fruman's list of ANC meetings, and every other ANC in Ward 3 meets at 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. Because I think that allows more time. People, maybe you're commuting home from downtown on the metro or something. Maybe you want to have dinner with your family or put your kids to bed, and a later start time is more conducive for some of that. So some of that's my thinking. And also just echoing, yes, thank you so much for Commissioner Goslin, who is doing the literal heavy lifting of that big equipment week after week. So thanks to him, and also OANC when they jump in. But so I hope we can hire someone to help with that burden. But otherwise, I look forward to hearing from residents.
Just from my side, really quickly, I favor in-person hybrid meetings. I got a guy, young guy. He'll probably be able to do the job. We can test him out some point here soon to help us on the tech side. If in fact everybody wants to do hybrid meetings, obviously I can accommodate. I mean, in virtual meetings only, Zoom meetings only, I can accommodate that as well. Essentially, I'm easy.
Can I make one comment responding to Zach? one way we could do in-person meetings and start at 7 is if we tightened up the meeting substantially. So people's comments had to be shorter, but we shortened the open mic segment. And we were scrupulous about shutting down at 8:30 so we can get out of there. That might be a compromise, at least with our regular meetings, where we could be in person. We could make some adjustment on the time, which I have great sympathy for. I don't eat, but I don't have young kids anymore, so I mean it is screwing up a whole family to make a 6 o'clock meeting. I understand is a real burden. So it's just a suggestion that we might change the timing of the meeting to make it fit in the 7 to 8:30 time period.
All right, the only quick thing on that, Commissioner Gosselin, is that I haven't seen an ANC meeting that could get done in an hour and a half. So if we do a hybrid in person, and with all due respect to Zach's schedule, I really don't see how we could do anything other than 6 to 8:30.
And to clarify, it's not just my schedule I'm worried about. I'm worried about other parents who have kids that they want to have dinner with them, and they want to, so not just my schedule, but thinking
No, I
about the
understand.
broader-
No, I mean,
broader-
no, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay, let me go to community. Marty, Corinthia, Elizabeth, first 3. And if you could keep your comments to a minute.
Hi, everyone. I am a former ANC commissioner back when meetings did not have to run that long and we didn't have nearly as big a agenda to handle. And I totally sympathize with you all and appreciate all you commissioners and all the work you're doing. And I can't believe the amount of extra meetings that you all are conducting. One of my jobs professionally is supporting a portion of our audiovisual, and with a dedicated Zoom room, we still have to have an AV person present to do a hybrid properly. And it is very taxing. It's equipment intensive to do it well. And otherwise, we experience what we experienced recently with some of the hybrid ANC meetings. And I fully understand it, but as somebody who has a lot of other things going on, I don't make it up to the in-person meetings. So I love having the Zoom option, and I don't think it's perfect. I think the perfect thing would be an awesome hybrid presentation. I don't know that you really have the ability to pull that off given the meeting location. It's just not set up to really have any type of a virtual meeting conducted in a way that people can hear it well and participate fully. So as a community member, and I've talked to a couple other people about this, that I would prefer hybrid if it could be done perfectly. Otherwise, my vote would be for Zoom. And as far as the timing, I understand what people are saying, and I don't have a particular opinion on that. So I appreciate everything you're doing, and that's it.
Thank you. Corinthia?
Hi, I think to have efficient and effective meetings, we should have these meetings as Zoom. Because the last meeting, I was really frustrating, waiting a half hour for you all to start. You can't always hear everyone in person. People speak out of turn. And I think for some of those challenges, Zoom can control that. I also think that having the meeting in person and starting at 7 is, again, unrealistic to expect that we can do everything within that timing. And I think as someone with a young child, the Zoom meetings allow for me to be able to cook dinner, do bath time, and still be able to participate. If people, there are those extroverts that like in person, I think the commission should try and do more social events or other events where you get that in-person dialogue. But for business, I think it should be virtual only.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Yeah, hi. With respect, I think this is the exact wrong time for the ANC to consider shrinking the available time to hear from the community and shrinking the available means to hear from the community. We are in the most important time for Chevy Chase Commons and the decision-making process. And I think restricting access to ANC commissioners and access to the community right now is just the wrong timing. I think you should table it and take it up again later on this year. I understand that you're tired. I get it. We're tired too, all of us. It's very hard on the community as well as on the ANC. I am in favor of doing the combined hybrid in-person and Zoom meetings for those who can't attend the in-person meetings. I understand. But that should not mean that the rest of the people who would like to see their commissioners in person should not be able to do so. So I'd like to see you keep the 6 to 8:30, and I'd like to see you keep the hybrid meetings, please.
Thank you. Elizabeth, Michaela, then Jamie Butler, then Lee Mayer.
Thank you. I think it's a tough issue, and there are a lot of different entities with different perspectives on this. I think ultimately I would, as a resident, come down in favor of an all virtual setting in order to ensure that we've got commissioners when we need them on important issues. I think the exhaustion factor is huge for commissioners who have to be on tap at all times. I've also been concerned about the problems with technology, and until we can get that figured out, it seems like doing a hybrid is not really working for anybody, either online or in person. I also do think it's really useful for enforcing time limits and maybe condensing our meetings a little bit by making sure that each of us is sort of adhering to sort of a certain civil amount of input. And I think we get larger numbers via Zoom. You know, when I track both the number of people in the room because I usually attend in person, but I also watch what's happening on the screen. And typically I'm finding that we've got more people attending in virtually than we do in person. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Michaela?
I just want to say, as someone who was confused this evening as to whether it was hybrid or in person or remote, that it's just clearly communicated. I get a lot of extra exercise out of this, but it would be, I just communicate clearly. And on the issue of, if possible, and maybe I didn't read it till the last minute. And secondly, on the issue of start time, I understand why you start at 6, but if you're a working person, you're working downtown, it's virtually impossible to get up to Chevy Chase Community Center or perhaps even jump online at 6 o'clock. Most people work till at least 5 o'clock, if not to 6 o'clock. So by starting at 6, you effectively exclude people who really should have input into the process. They just are not able to make it. I don't know how you square that circle, but I just wanted to voice my support for perhaps considering a way to start maybe some of the meetings later so that people who have a commute or just simply aren't able to make it because they have children or other commitments and a 7:30 start time would be better, that somehow those people are accommodated at least from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie?
Yeah, thank you. I favor Zoom only format, and for the reasons that everybody else has already stated. I think they're compelling reasons. I would add to that the frustration for those of us who have either been on a Zoom or been in the meeting room and sat there for anywhere from 20 minutes to 45 minutes and still have problems with the sound. That community center is being replaced for a good reason. It does not seem to accommodate Zoom. And I appreciate, Bruce, that you think you have somebody on board, but we've been living with this for a long time. And, hoping that somebody's going to come in and magically fix all of this, I'm not optimistic about it. So I think all of us would be less frustrated if we met on Zoom. We do get more people. I'm sympathetic to all of the commissioners who are working hard to listen to us as a community. That sometimes we're taking a lot of abuse from community members. And I think starting at 7 o'clock or 7:30 makes more sense. I also think that if you all decide on a meeting format and you stick to it, that'll help. You know, if you say you're going to have community members ask questions after a speaker is done speaking, then let's try to stick to it. Because I think when we let people talk too long, when we don't follow the format that either you decided on, it lengthens these meetings. And I think people should stick to a certain number of minutes when talking. We all should learn how to be more efficient when we're talking to all of you. So thank you for asking our opinion on this. I appreciate it. And I thank you all for the time and energy you spend on this. It is a tough period. Elizabeth is right. There's just a lot going on and a lot of divisiveness, and you have to manage all of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Lee, then Michelle, then Thomas.
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in. I think a hybrid in-person meeting is important. I don't have any problem with going to 7 o'clock if that makes it easier for the commissioners and the community. One thing I did want to throw out there is perhaps instead of doing the meetings at the Chevy Chase Community Center and having to deal with all the headaches involved with setting up the Zoom meetings there. Has anyone looked at maybe doing this at Knollwood or any facility, St. John's College, University, any of these large places that have AV equipment already set up and ready to go? Even you know, the Chevy Chase house might have something. I don't know if it's large enough. But you might want to consider looking around and seeing if there's a better facility so you don't have to deal with all the AV headaches. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yeah, the time I personally wouldn't mind, obviously, if it went later. That can be better for people. But if one is to have hybrid meetings, I do understand, the community center staff does need to get out in time. So I'm not sure exactly how to solve that. But I will say, I do think for, let's say, hot button issues, I think hybrid meetings where people can be in person is valuable for the ANC commissioners to get a sense of where the community is. I think that comes across a little more in person. When you see a large number of people who, and granted, people are on both sides, but I think it gives you a sense of how people feel, which you just sort of miss when people just give comments, online. And I will say, I remember when the Office of Planning did one of their things, community meetings, supposedly, on the small area plan. COVID, it was all virtual. They put people in small groups. The problem with that is people couldn't get a sense of where the rest of the community was. And then later I would talk to people and I found, like my small group, a large majority of their small groups were also not in favor of upzoning, let's call it, the library and community center. But you couldn't get any sense of that, when you're just online. So, especially I understand why the chat's disabled, but that's another way where you don't see a lot of what people are saying. I mean, I think you would have to say, anyone making a comment, you have to do it like this, by raising their hand. Because there shouldn't be all this crosstalk going, or not crosstalk, people chatting to the commissioners that no one else can see. I mean, that's a problem. So anyway, again, I would prefer hybrid, but yeah, I mean, the tech problems are real and the timing is a bit of an issue too. So, all right.
Thank you. Thomas, then Mary.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the end time of the meetings. That seems this 8:30 ending is so absolute that we're twisting ourselves around trying to figure out how to fit a meeting in before 8:30. But, that just sounds like a problem that hasn't received enough thought on solving that problem. I mean, we've got money in the treasury Lee Mayer suggested maybe we meet in some place at some other place. Perhaps that other place will not have an 8:30 cutoff. Or if they do, we can use some resources to make sure people are compensated for putting in overtime, whatever. But, you know, the start time is being dictated by the ending time, and the ending time doesn't seem to be under examination.
So let me just
Thank you.
address that, because that we have no control of the end time. Employees have to be out of the community center by 9 o'clock. It takes us at least a half hour to tear down that equipment. I would say not only the equipment, but also remember the chairs. So if there's 50 people in there, we have to put 50 chairs back plus all the equipment. Half hour minimum to tear all that down.
Well, that strikes me as a perfect argument for looking for some other place to have the meetings.
And we
And
have.
I can jump in on that. Yeah. And I think we've all, and I appreciate Lee and Tom, your suggestions, because if, you know, the community center is under construction for years, we are going to need to find, you know, if we want to have in-person meetings, we're going to need to find an alternative space at some point. I think Commissioner Lynch asked Lafayette Elementary, and they said they closed at like 7 p.m. They weren't, you know, really couldn't do it there. But I think, yeah, this conversation, I think, has prompted me at least to think about alternatives and maybe reaching out. Because again, I think the hybrid option would be perfect if we could go past 9 p.m. Because then we could have both the later start time and the longer meetings. But that's the trade-off right now, is we can't do that at the DPR center. But I think I'll try to keep looking.
And
Yeah.
Commissioner Gosselin, you want to chime in on the places you look, because, and this goes back to Lee and Thomas, we have looked at every place around here.
Yeah, the arc of this is the following. We were all Zoom during COVID, and as we came out of COVID, we kept trying to learn about technology, but also try to find other locations. And the problem with the other locations we kept running into, for example, the church on the circle, the Presbyterian church, or St. John's, was that they were happy to host us a lot of times, just not all the time. And as has been evident here, when we change, if you think changing from hybrid to virtual is confusing, changing locations is going to leave people, you know, completely confused. And so I think the reason we did not try any, I think I also talked to Blessed Sacrament, their parish hall. We talked to a bunch of places, and they were willing to host us some of the time, but that means we've got a movable feast on our hands. So that poses its own difficulty.
Let me just add to this, because Knollwood and St. John's College High School are both in my district, to Lee's and Thomas's suggestions. St. John's College High School has hosted my single member district meetings. And potentially they could host ANC meetings. When we've talked among ourselves, commissioners, we've thought also that the Chevy Chase Community Center, given that it is the community center, is the proper venue for ANC meetings. Separate apart from anything else, it's the place where the community gathers, and it's the appropriate place. Given the technology, or the technical issues rather, and so forth, we can go back and look at an alternative location that would be established as the location. You also recognize, though, that we do have to pay for that, so that's a factor, although it wouldn't necessarily be a huge cost, because these institutions potentially have business before the commission. So as you know, we've talked to OANC and the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability about these matters. So there are some other considerations that we have to take into account, but it is possible, certainly, to look at an alternative location.
Mary Ross?
Hi, thank you, Ken. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I also vote for a hybrid only. I certainly appreciate how folks like to meet in person. I do think that disabling the chat has really been part of this whole communication snafu issue, that it just doesn't help when community members can't communicate. If the chat had been open tonight, for example, I wouldn't have raised my hand so much. And I think that the problem is that we are forced to speak directly to you all through the mic, and that's fine. But I think that, you know, in these hybrid meetings, people who come up to the microphones in the room don't ever identify themselves, rarely identify themselves. So it's hard to know who's speaking. That's one of the disadvantages for someone who's online trying to hear what's going on in the room. And I think that if you do move the location, you know, the community center is a central place in this community. It is the heart of our community. And it would really need to be, it would be important to try to find a place that was also in a central point. I don't know that many people would be able to get over to St. John's unless they drove. I think it's important to have it walkable for those who live close by, who are on the avenue, who don't have cars. But I think in the end, it just was so frustrating the other night when Joel Lawson was there and he had problems with his PowerPoint. He had problems with there were technical problems for 45 minutes before the meeting began. And it was just a lot of wasted time for people. And I think until this can get worked out, I think it's only fair to just make it hybrid, because I think that we're wasting everyone's time otherwise. So thanks.
You mean virtual, Mary, you mean virtual?
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you. And Jane? You're on mute, Jane.
I just wanted to say briefly, I fully understand how the challenges and the technology to do hybrid. But as a parent of 3 scouts from Troop 52 for 10 years, I helped often lead the badge that every scout is required to take, called Citizenship in the Community. And I just want to say that with our kids spending more and more time online and interacting with people only virtually, I think there's something really magical and significant. I agree with Commissioner Goslin about being in a room and experiencing civil discourse.
100%. Thank you. Woof, commissioners.
And now what do we do?
Ew, this is one of those tough things. I mean, so I've always been a big advocate for in person, and I think Jane just summed it up for me. I just feel like to be where we need to be as a community, to really understand that, you know, there's people behind these thoughts and ideas, and nobody's, you know, the real boogeyman. And just for that civil discourse, as she said, to me, in person is just critical. And I definitely see a difference when we're in person and you have an opportunity and people have an opportunity to come up and talk to you about a viewpoint versus what sometimes happened in a virtual context. And I think Carithia also brought up a point too that struck a chord with me, because I am an extreme, extrovert. I love people and I feed off of people and that energy. So I know that too influences my decision, because I love seeing and talking to folks. But I think, you know, for me, it's what is going to really work for our commissioners, because we cannot be effective if we only have 3 people. I mean, there's been times where me and Commissioner Goslin have worried about a quorum. We were worried about a quorum tonight. And if someone had an emergency, we wouldn't have had them. So that's definitely at the forefront of my mind too. But I definitely agree. The hybrid is causing us a lot of issues. So commissioners, with everything that you've heard, I don't know. And let me too address the start time. We talked about trying to get our commission on track with meetings, the agendas, speaking time, and ending at 8:30. And if you guys have kept up with our meetings across time, you know sometimes that's been very hard to do with the commission. So we definitely need to be more disciplined. And I agree with the comments that having an early start time, I do think it loses a part of our community. And also equally important are the people that we need to step up in the role as commissioners. We I'm sure none of us plan to be commissioners forever. And we want people to come behind us, and we want those people to be a hybrid mix of our community. I love having parents with young kids on the commission. You know, we need a mix and a balance. And if our community members look at us as a commission and feel like that they just can't even do the role because of, you know, the meeting times, we're missing out on a lot of people that could add a lot to these conversations. So I do personally like the 7 o'clock start time. But you know, making sure we end on time has got to be number one priority. We just can't, you know, go beyond that. So commissioners, we can either vote tonight. If you feel comfortable with that, we can table this discussion until we have a full conversation with the commission. I'm open to your suggestions on this. Commissioner Gosselin.
I don't think we have a solution to. So I think that what we ought to do is make these two special meetings when we're talking about zoning virtual, and make it a 7 o'clock start time, and you know 7 to 9 or something like that, and then talk to Bruce's candidate for the tech. I'll take him over to the community center, community center, and show him the equipment and see, you know, he can do mock setups and see if he can get them up in less than 2 hours and actually working, unlike me. So I just don't think we have a solution. And we can make the rounds of possible sites of alternatives to the community center. Again, although I'm not convinced we're going to find a place, even if we pay, that will commit to the second and fourth Monday of every month in and month out. So my sense is we need to have at least a decision about our two other meetings in April. And since we need to work on this to get a resolution out, I think the simplest route is the one we took tonight. The simplest route to a quorum is the one we took tonight, and make it virtual and make it start at 7. And then we'll work on this, and hopefully by May, either the tech person will turn out all right, or we'll find another location, or we'll decide on a tighter meeting format. You know, there's some solutions that we could come to, like say that we're going to have a hybrid meeting with an in-person component, and we're going to have it from 7 to 8:30. And when we run over, we have a kind of rain date of a virtual follow-on, something like that, so that it's the getting the rest of the testimony or getting the rest of the agenda issues done slops over to a virtual meeting. And yet we're still in front of the public in person for all the reasons that everybody spoke about, and, you know, at least part of our meetings, and at least at a starting time that works. In any case, I don't think we have a solution right now. So my proposal is that we just make these two meetings in April about the proposed zoning changes virtual, and get on, you know, try to cope with this.
Commissioner Ferguson.
Yeah, I agree on at least putting off the larger decision going forward, just because we only have 4 of the 7 commissioners here. And I think on something this big, you know, it's great to get those other 3 commissioners' input. I actually thought I was going to be dropping off later to do bedtime, but I can't do that now without ruining quorum. So I won't do that for a little bit longer. But I've attended every regular ANC meeting. I will continue to do my best to attend every regular. One time I had to call in from the airport to deal with some treasurer stuff, but I've attended every regular meeting. For the Upper Connecticut Avenue zoning issue, we're going to have 4 special meetings total. 1 last year, 3 this year. We've already had 2 in person, so I think making the next 2 virtual, you know, that's 50-50. So I'd be happy to vote on that, because, you know, I like I said, I've attended every regular meeting, but the special meetings, that's just too much time away from family. I miss some of those. But you know, there's always trade-offs. I appreciate everyone's doing their best, and there's no perfect solution. So I'm happy to, and I also defer a lot to what Gosselin thinks, because he does, again, the heavy lifting. So I give great weight to what he says.
Okay, so, Peter, we've already announced these two April meetings though, right?
We've announced one. We've announced the April 11th one, and we announced it as hybrid at 6 o'clock. But it had a notice on it. I put a notice at the very top saying this could change as a result of this discussion.
Okay,
There is not I owe the community an agenda for the 17th by Thursday
okay,
this week. So there's no surprise here in terms of officially what we put up. That is to say, the one agenda we have put up included a clear notice that we might change the time and the format.
okay.
So, okay.
Bruce, do you have any objections to the April meetings being virtual at 7 p.m.?
Nope.
Okay, so let's do that. I don't think we need to necessarily vote on it. Let's make April 7th, and then maybe part of that discussion is at all of our special meetings. I don't know. I don't want to say that because I do think some of our meetings, even special, deserve in person. That's just me. But let's do these next two for April, virtual only.
I just want to say, Lisa, I second what you just said about indicated. I'm good with hybrid meetings. Hybrids do have a component of in-person and virtual. And on these next two, Zoom only, that's fine. I do think it's good for the community to engage with us, as you've articulated and others have, including my wife. So I think I support that. And I think that's good for us. We have other alternatives that we could consider when all the other commissioners are with us, which is to have some meetings that are in person only, where we engage with people and don't worry about the setup. But we do have this young man that's interested, so we can test him out and see how that works.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Thank you, commissioners and community. So the next one is Commissioner Sherman and Zeldin. I know he's not here. Possible update on the boundary study?
So I checked most recently on Friday about the boundary study. I still haven't seen it. But just to review for the community so that you understand the significance of the boundary study and what we have known thus far. The boundary study is an every 10-year proposition that the Deputy Mayor for Education does to take a look at whether or not all of the children in the District of Columbia have equal access to high-quality education, essentially. And they make decisions in terms of boundaries, in terms of assignments, in terms of facilitating out-of-boundary students, at-risk students to have access to other schools. So in our area, the three schools of immediate interest to us, I won't cover Murch, but Jackson Reed and Deal and Lafayette. Jackson Reed has had a chronic overcrowding problem. There's the new MacArthur High School, which we all know, in Palisades. And those kids in Jackson Reed now and rising freshmen coming out of Deal now can choose to apply to MacArthur. MacArthur is hoping, this DCPS is hoping it eases the overcrowding problem. The boundary and student assignment study is going to be looking at easing out of boundary students for Jackson Reed and easing out of boundary students at Deal. Deal is scheduled to have a significant expansion in terms of additional space, adding capacity of 220, 230 or somewhere around that. I know Will Perkins is on the call and he can fill in the gaps here as I go through this kind of quickly. But for Lafayette, immediately in our ANC, the school has been identified as one to accept more at-risk students because it has relatively few compared to other schools in the city. The exact number of at-risk students is yet to be determined. It wouldn't be at-risk out-of-boundary students for pre-K. It would only be for first grade through sixth. It is a fifth. It is a situation at Lafayette now where the school has 933 students, I understand, is their current enrollment. The budget figures show 945 students as the target enrollment for next school year. So the school has a capacity that they've expanded a bit by converting some of their rooms in the basement to classrooms of about 978. So it's pushing up against its capacity for sure. lots and lots of children, and the community continues to grow with children in our ANC and Lafayette School District. So perhaps Will could add. I see his hand is up. He's tracking this very closely in Councilmember Louis George's office, and I'll yield to him to provide a further update.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Will Perkins. I just wanted to pop in and say that the boundary study has been released today from the Deputy Mayor for Education's office, and as well as the Master Facilities Plan. Commissioner Sherman, I sent you a link for each of those, which you can share out. And additionally, I'll send you a link that is to data related to the lottery, the school lottery. So the changes proposed, I believe, for the at-risk preference for Lafayette would be that inbound students considered at risk, which is generally students that have some form of public benefit, SNAP or TANF, you would have a preference amongst in-boundary students. So for Lafayette, all of the seats given out in the boundary in the lottery went to in-boundary students. So it would be priority amongst in-boundary students for students who meet the at-risk criteria. And then after that would be out of boundary. So thank you again for the opportunity to chime in. Thank you, Commissioner.
Great. So this is fresh information that we'll digest and brief on a little bit more completely later. It's great to have that.
I agree. Thank you.
Well, one other thing I would add in the budget, and again, Will can correct me if I'm misstating this. It's 110,000, I think, was the plus up figure for at-risk students that was put into the Lafayette budget. If they're going to accept more at-risk students, typically funds come along with those additional students, and it's 110,000, which doesn't strike me at first blush as a lot of money. But in any event, that's what I understand is in the budget, Lafayette budget for that.
Thank you. All right. Commissioner Gosselin, update on the bioretention cell.
Yeah.
With DDOT.
Just before we do that, let me just say, while the historic district is now delayed, so we don't have an extended discussion. I said it earlier that some people on the call may not know what the exchange has been about. I was just going to say that this morning, the Historic Preservation Office issued a press release on behalf of the board that said that given that it had questions about the community support for the proposed Chevy Chase Historic District and had questions about the proposed boundaries, saying that they are not sufficiently justified, and citing the lack of community support and these concerns about the proposed boundaries, as well as the need by the HPO and the Historic Preservation Review Board to conduct a citywide analysis in order to more effectively evaluate historic district nominations. I'm reading here from the press release. HPO is not prepared to recommend that the current proposal for a Chevy Chase Historic District be considered by the HPRB at this time. So this thing is it's been put into abeyance. My understanding is at least for 2024. So that's the update there. And then I'm just going to turn to this other issue. I'll just remind the community, this commission understood that there's going to be a stormwater management system put in place or expanded. It is already an elaborate stormwater management system, particularly in Lisa and Bruce Sherman's single member districts, but this was going to be expanded to the more populated areas in our community. We'd understood this for several years and had several hearings, but we only got a glimpse of the size of the proposal in a very cryptic notice in last September. And as residents took a closer and closer look at it, a whole raft of concerns were raised about the size of the proposed bioretention basins that they want to install, and the locations of them and what they did to it, their likely effect on abutting properties. The Department of Transportation, which is managing this, the acting director, Sharon Kirschbaum, came out with a whole team of people on February 2nd and met with us, met with a lot of community members and commissioners on Chevy Chase Parkway and did a kind of walking tour of various locations. The acting director Kirschbaum pledged to make significant adjustments in the program after that meeting. She made this commitment. We understood that she was going to get back to us rather quickly, but it's been more than 2 months, and so I wrote to the DDOT, to the Department of Transportation team, and asked them where they stand. And their Ward 3 liaison wrote Thursday or something and just said that they are not prepared to present anything at this meeting, and we recommend scheduling. I'm reading from the letter that he wrote. We recommend scheduling us for your late May, early June meeting, where we can share the updated plans and have a larger discussion with the community. So this thing is, I frankly don't know what it means, whether they're just, they're just doing rope-a-dope, or this is a vast change is afoot. But in any case, we're not going to hear about how they're responding to our input for at least for almost 2 more months. So that's it. That's my report on this.
And let me give a quick update on the maintenance issue. As it happens, I had this morning a call with Jim Woodworth of the Department of Energy and Environment. And for folks on the call who are not acquainted with how these bioretention beds are maintained, it's not the Department of Transportation that maintains them. They install them. It's the Department of Energy and Environment that maintains them. And Jim Woodworth is their point person at DOEE. Some interesting things are happening on this score, which I think are actually encouraging, kind of exciting if you're into these sorts of things. They actually are bringing forward an identification system whereby they would have a number and a QR code for every bioretention bed so that neighbors could hit that with their phones and report maintenance issues. They're also looking at putting up signage, as they say, at different bioretention beds in terms of what their purpose is to educate the public. They wouldn't be in every one, they'd be in a few prominent locations. And we talked about Oregon Avenue in Nebraska and Tennyson, where there's a lot of traffic into the park, where people walk by a lot as being potentially candidates for signs of that sort. But I just want to flag that they're also reiterating that their contracts with their maintenance crews are in effect. They're going to be doing, they've done a lot of maintenance over the winter in terms of clearing debris and whatnot. They're going to be replanting the beds on Oregon Avenue. Their contractor is going to be doing that. And we're going to have another, and Lisa, you'll be interested in this since you were involved in the one last fall. We're going to do another event like the one last fall where the Rock Creek Conservancy and the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, which are contractors of the Department of Energy and Environment, come out and join with the community, volunteers, a lot of them in my single member districts. We have a lot of these beds and others that are interested to do maintenance. If these wouldn't be planting, they would be cleaning up, maintaining, and putting them all in the best possible condition. So just wanted to give an update on that. Yeah, Peter.
So that I think you've answered the question, but one of the things I've noticed is that the beds along Oregon have been cleaned up, but there are no plantings. I mean, they're sort of rocks and mulch in there. So that's the planting's coming later. It's not that the planting.
That's right. Planning for those beds along Oregon is going to happen in the next month and a half or so.
And just so people understand, this is confusing. The city has already installed, what did you say, 60 beds in the and sort of near Rock Creek Park, so in Bruce's and Lisa's district, and so that is in the domain of the Department of Transportation. The maintenance of the beds has also been an issue. Many of them have gotten overgrown, trash filled, and so on and so forth. And Bruce and Lisa have been working on that issue. That is dealt with by a different department.
So it's also, we talked further about the partnership with our citizen volunteers, and they are actually drawing up a partnership agreement that would be kind of a model agreement for the city, whereby neighbors that have a green thumb, that want to participate. I've got some people in my single member district like John Burwell who are trained weed warriors by the National Park Service to eliminate invasive species from Rock Creek Park. And so they're trusted folks by DOE to do this kind of maintenance. They're not just people who on a whim go in and start pulling out plants. None of that happens, to be very clear. So yes, but I'm very happy to say that all the beds in our area here are currently clean, and they have many new plants in them, and they're going to be tagged with this number, with the QR code over whatever period of time. Jim didn't say exactly when that was going to happen, but there are some positive developments in an area that we all know has been inadequate, and I think they're taking steps to remedy it.
Sounds good. Any other questions on that, commissioners? Okay. The last thing on the agenda before we go into community announcements, Commissioner Gosselin, you had possible update on the community center and library.
Yeah, I have nothing new on that, other than I should say that on the issue of sort of disclosure, I have been approached by, and I assume the other commissioners have been approached by the Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing, which is thinking about doing a proposal. Now, I just, for the new commissioners, I'd remind you, we actually spoke, I believe, to the Arlington Partnership during the small area plan. My memory is that they built affordable housing. What was most impressive about their proposals is that they did wraparound services. Once they weren't just developing brick and mortar. They brought with their development in Arlington an entire package of wraparound services for residents. In any case, I've taken the position that I'm happy to talk to these people. I intend to say no more than that. Here are the concerns of the neighbors, of the community. Here are the survey results. You know, do your best. Give us your best thoughts. So just again on the disclosure front, there you have it.
All right. I see Commissioner Lynch just joined us. Thank you for joining, Commissioner Lynch. Are there any community announcements? Matthew?
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Barclay. I'm with the Mayor's Office of Community Relations Services. Have some updates today. I'll drop my information in the chat. Mayor Bowser, officially.
Better.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up really bad. Wherever your location is, you're breaking up a little bad, but go on because you started to clear up a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Mayor Bowser released her 2025 budget this week to council. You can view all of our information there at budget.dc.gov. The budget addresses the confluence of post-COVID factors that we are facing, including slower revenue growth, the end of federal stimulus funding, significantly higher operating costs, including an additional $200 million in WMATA funding, and impacts of remote work environment. This budget makes significant investments in our people and our economy and focuses on 3 pillars of long-term growth: public schools, public safety, and the downtown. We must be smart, must be strategic. These were the guiding principles that crafted this budget. Excuse me. First, we focused on maintaining and enhancing the core services of the city government, preserving programs and services that protect the health and safety of our community. We prioritize programs with track records of success that focus on equity And for the district's long-term stability, we work to reset spending so that it aligns with our resources, and we focused new spending on 3 pillars: public safety, public education, and downtown. So if you can learn more at budget.dc.gov, and I'll put my information in the chat. If you have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay.
Or get an answer for you.
Any more community announcements? Commissioner announcements?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. If I could hark back just briefly to the conversation about Lafayette Field and Corinthia's comment about making public the response from the city, specifically the Department of General Services and the Department and the District of Columbia Public Schools. I do have just now a letter from Councilmember Louis George to Director Hunter and Chancellor Farabee that I want to cite just briefly, because I alluded to the fact that when they provided their response, they did not answer specifically issues she had raised in her letter to them asking for detailed cost comparisons. And so I will just read this. She said that my letter asks for, quote, a side-by-side comparison of artificial turf versus natural grass, including installation costs, operating costs, potential safety risks, length of useful life, usable time per year, and any other relevant factors which inform DGS DCPS decisions. And so she goes on to say, ideally, this would have taken the form of a table comparing grass versus turf on the factors we listed or whatever other factors were determinative in making your decision. For example, we still don't know the costs of one turf field every 10 years and how it compares with the cost of multiple grass fields apparently needed over the same length of time. The response letter also doesn't cite any of its sources for the assertions related to the safety of turf. If there was an explicit cost-benefit analysis completed, please share it. It should not be this hard to get a straight answer. She's asking for their second reply by Monday, April 15th. So this is what I'm indicating in terms of the complexity of the issue. We can provide their response, but their response was incomplete. And therefore, it needs to be supplemented by this additional information. So I'm just noting that it's an ongoing issue. It's an ongoing conversation. I would also then, in terms of the announcement, encourage everybody to participate, as I said earlier, tomorrow night in the virtual community meeting that's going to look very specifically with some of the country's leading experts, representatives from the turf industry and the natural grass industry, on these very questions that Councilmember Louis George is pointing to concerning installation costs, operating costs, useful life, playability of fields. All of that is going to be up for conversation, discussion tomorrow night, 7 to 9 p.m. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lynch.
Hey, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I was getting back from some school stuff. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m., the Deputy Mayor of Education, Paul Kine, is speaking before the Ward 3 Education Network. The Ward 3 Education Network is a group of parents, educators, people concerned about education issues within the Ward 3 school system. So if anybody's interested in the budget, he's going to be talking about that specifically, the Deputy Mayor of Education, Paul Kine, and it's on Zoom, and a lot of the Ward 3 Education Network meetings are posted on listservs, and I think they may even post on Facebook or something like that, and they have a website. But if anybody's interested in getting the Zoom and can't find it, you can always email me at 3g05@anc.dc.gov. That would be a really important meeting to go to help understand where the city is coming from on this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. And committee reports. I don't know if any of our committee chairs are on the line. I know Michaela wanted to do an update on the Transportation Committee. Peter, you want to do an update on one?
Yeah, I've circulated an email to all the former ZDD Zoning Design and Development Committee members and copied the commissioners, suggesting that we meet and try to revive the ZDD, which has been in kind of suspended animation since last June. As the whole task of putting together a community survey was taken over by a group of commissioners at the behest of Chair Gore. I've gotten enough response that I'm going to go forward with this, and we're shooting for the last Thursday of April 25th. It will probably be at 5:30. So Commissioner Lynch said that would be a more convenient time. I do think it's going to be virtual, but I will issue an agenda for that. That's the report.
Okay. Michaela, do you want to give an update on the Transportation Committee?
Yes. Just quickly, I just wanted to offer an update on the newly formed ANC 34G Transportation Committee. The new committee will be co-chaired by Commissioner James Nash, who couldn't be here this evening, Carl Simone, and myself. So there'll be 3 of us who will be co-chairing this committee together. So far to date, we've had one pre-formation meeting, and on Thursday, April 4th, the committee held its first meeting attended by 14 people. It was largely an organizational meeting where the committee decided that by May 6th, we expect to finalize the membership of the committee, finish a mission statement, and develop a charter for the committee. We expect to have monthly meetings. I guess they'll be held in person the first Thursday of every month. And the committee will try to use a collaborative method to make decisions in order to encourage discussion and compromise on divisive issues. At the April 4th meeting, the newly formed Transportation Committee decided to form 2 working groups, a bus service working group, which expects to consider bus transit issues in greater detail, including the mayor's proposed FY25 budget, along with the implications for better bus service in our neighborhood and the new version of the Better Bus Initiative once it's released, and other issues as they emerge, as well as a transportation safety working group to focus on pedestrian and cycling safety, as well as parking and seascape issues. So in a nutshell, that's what happened at the April 4th first meeting of the Transportation Committee of the ANC. Thank you.
That's excellent. Thank you, Michaela. All right. Hearing that in terms of commission business, I don't think we have any secretary or treasurer's reports. Possible agenda items for April 11th. We have special meeting, public testimony, discussion and resolution on proposed Upper Connecticut Avenue zoning changes. Commissioners, anything else for the next meeting?
The next meeting.
Special meeting.
Special meeting. That's set, right? The agenda's set.
Yeah, I'm just adding anything else. Nope. Okay. Mr. Johnson, you missed community comments. You want to come off camera?
Sure. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes. I just want to let you know you missed community comments, but I'm a nice person and I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. And that shows the confidence in me. But go on and introduce yourself to the community.
I appreciate your grace, Madam Chair, and I appreciate your colleagues on the commission for your work. I just wanted to say that I appreciate the discussion around access and the virtual meetings versus in person and hybrid. It's an issue I think all commissions and communities are wrestling with, and I look forward to being with you all in person at another one of your meetings to interact personally and learn more about the issues of accountability, oversight, and health and safety issues in the ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, commissioners and community members, thank you so much. I'm gonna call the meeting adjourned. I cannot believe it, 7:57. Maybe we need to do virtual only. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate all your comments and questions and concerns. And we will see you at our next meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.